welcome everyone to another episode of Soul Talk. I'm your host, Soul, and today I have a very special guest, my fellow co-host on the Ultimate Schmodown After Show. Jon, how you doing today?
I'm doing all right. How you doing? I love the theme song for the show. It's much more peaceful and serene than I'm used to when I'm doing a show with you.
Right? We want to evoke that peacefulness, that go with the flow. Like, that's actually a picture I took of Marco Island, Florida. So that is actual beach, how it is here in Florida. Get jealous, people. Get jealous.
And that's what they actually do, right? Is they travel exclusively in pairs, get about, what's that, like 15, 20 feet up in the air.
Right. But let's get into our topics today. We're actually adding anime back in because every time I get a fan of anime on the show, we have to talk about anime. So, Jon, what recent anime have you been watching?
Oh boy, it's me, the most notorious fan of anime that there is. It's actually been over the past couple months that I've kind of been getting a little bit back into anime. I'm largely a casual fan. It's just a couple of shows that I dig. But as it turns out, there's been a bunch that I've been watching recently, including one that just came back for a new season, and that's My Hero Academia. Have you watched that one, Soul?
I have not watched wrong picture.
Oh boy.
There we go.
Man. Well, what's going on with Untitled Folder number 2 though? We gotta get to the bottom of that mystery. But yes. I'll talk about the anime for now, but I gotta see the inside of that folder at some point. My Hero Academia. It's one of the few things that has come out in recent years, or at least the show has in recent years. I don't know when the manga came out, but this is one of those things where it like really reminded me why I dig superhero stuff. I feel like a lot of superhero media that's out there, I don't really feel that excited by, and that's because there's so much of it, and a lot of it is very similar, and we'll probably get into that a little bit later. But this show, it's just so colorful and fun and very cartoony in a way that I really enjoy, especially because I first started caring about superheroes when I was like reading old comic books. So it's kind of the type of superhero content that connects me to what I picture when I first think of superheroes, as you can see by my little X-Men poster there in the back. But yeah, it's, I guess at this point when we're doing this show, I think only 2 episodes into the new season. And, it's an anime that was made during COVID, so it's very clear that like there's, I mean, at least as someone that only knows so much about the production process, there are definitely elements of like the first episode in particular where it kind of feels like they were doing what they could. It was a lot of like freeze frames of all of the characters, and then just kind of like a little bit of narration. Yeah, exactly, that kind of thing where it's like, all right, they probably were a little stretched for time. That's fair. I get it. They're infinitely more productive than I have been this pandemic, so I don't hold it against them. But it's just one of those things where, especially because the last season came out, I guess, last season would have been done before the pandemic hit. So it's honestly, on top of being a lovely piece of superhero media, it also reminds me that the world is, nature is healing, you know?
Yeah. It's funny when you see like all different things coming out and you're like, oh, this is starting to feel normal again. It's just a little bit like it's like I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm not there yet, but it's almost there.
Yeah.
I haven't seen this one yet. I gave my friends like, should I watch Hunter x Hunter first or My Hero Academia? And a bunch of my friends said, go watch Hunter x Hunter. So I'm still like, even though we're not talking about it today because it's been a few weeks since I've seen an episode, but I've been going through Hunter x Hunter. I'm in season 4 right now of that.
Nice. There you go. That's one of those shows where it's like, I feel like there's a bunch of shows, but anime in particular, where it's like I've seen the first episode and then I haven't seen much since then. Not because I didn't like it, but just because it's like there's just so much.
Yes. It happens all the time. It's just like I didn't stop watching this because I didn't like it. I just didn't have time for it.
Exactly. Like I did that with Evangelion as well. I watched the first episode. I was like, that was cool. And then I probably just fucked off. And that was probably when I was I should have asked if I'm allowed to curse here.
Yes, you can. Go ahead.
Well, I won't do it again anyway because I'm unpredictable. I'm crazy. Yeah, Evangelion was another one where it's like I watched the first episode, then probably just was too deep into my Bachelor phase at that point in time. Oh boy.
I'm surprised that you didn't put Bachelor in our notes for today. I was very surprised.
We can talk about it later, but yeah, I've not been putting my eyes on that show for a minute.
So, what other anime have you been watching?
Well, I guess it just wrapped, or like this half of it wrapped, and then the second half is what comes out. I think it was winter 2021 is what they were saying, but Attack on Titan season 4. That's another. Yep, there. I mean, look at that picture. It's so cool. This was a show. I mean, again, I'll ask. Have you seen any of this one?
So I've seen up to season 2, and I keep telling, oh, I'm behind on Attack on Titan, and Colin, our co-host on the Ultimate Showdown After Show, keeps telling me, he's like, you can't say you're behind. You're in season 2. You're way behind. You're 2 behind now. And I'm like, shut up, Colin.
That's fair. That's, sometimes you just got to tell your friend Colin to shut up, and that's okay. We all have that friend Colin who sometimes needs to shut up, even though we love him very much.
Yes.
But I mean, part of why I'm totally fine defending you on this front is because, as is true with me and true of a lot of folks I know, there's some slow moments in Attack on Titan where it kind of is difficult to stay engaged. Like, I forget I think it was in season 2, maybe season 3, where there's like an episode where like they do 2 time jumps within one episode, and both time jumps are like 1 week ago, and then the second time jump is 45 minutes before that, and I'm like, what do you do? Just what's the point? There is such a thing as like cohesive narrative time flow. Like, you don't need to be doing this, you silly goose.
Especially when episodes are only like 20-something minutes long.
Exactly. So I remember, honestly, like I was watching Attack on Titan season 2 when it was coming out week by week. And then I just was like, yeah, I don't care enough about this. Like, I'm going to watch something else instead. And then by the time that season 3 was fully done and it was all on Hulu, I was like, all right, I've heard it got good again. Let me give it another shot. And as it turned out, everyone was right. It got real good. And I've been very happy to be on this season 4 train because what they've been doing this season has been really cool.
Yeah, and I know that like all my friends who have read the manga and have kept up to date with the manga, they're like, continue watching. And I'm like, I will eventually. I feel like that that like Amanda Bynes character, I'll get to it eventually.
That's right.
Like all that.
Oh man, yeah. I don't know what it is about anime in particular, but I feel like that's the one. Maybe it's just because every anime is so long, and there's just so much of it. Where I feel like that's usually the one where I'm always more kind of okay with just going like, yeah, I'll just pick it up again later at some point. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, honestly, and again, it's the same thing I do with comics. It's just something about that lovely animation style where it's like I almost kind of know I can always come back to it as like a comfort thing. And maybe it's a subconscious thing where I'm just like, no, I want to make sure I have a backlog of it that I can just kick back and relax with when I need to have a day to myself.
Because you don't want that episode that ends on a cliffhanger and then you got to wait a week or 2 weeks for an episode and you're just like,
yeah.
Why did I do this to myself?
This is an HBO event television. Sometimes it's okay to like let it backlog and then I don't need to worry about like going into work and then having 5 people but being like, oh, did you see what happened on Game of Thrones? Remember when we cared about Game of Thrones? What an entirely other world. Like that's not even. It
feels so long ago now, especially because the pandemic made everything feel so long ago.
It's like it's crazy to think about how there was a moment in time where I had actual legitimate angry emotions about a TV show where a bunch of people in silly accents stab a bunch of zombies. What an entirely other world.
I remember watching the final episodes too with my cousins, and he got so pissed at the TV. And I was like, now it's just like other stuff has happened. We don't need to get mad at TV shows anymore.
Truly. Well, I guess we don't want to talk about The Bachelor because I got mad at that show. So.
And then I know that you had another one, which I saw when I was picking pictures for it, that this is a 2021 like best anime winner or something like that. I don't know which award it was, but it's some award thing. It won an award.
That sounds right. Yeah. It's a show called Jujutsu Kaisen. And if I had watched only, oh, there it is, Anime of the Year for 2021, a year that is not even close to over, as much as
Right.
you might will it to be. Yeah, I probably would have given this show Anime of the Year if you would show me exclusively the first few episodes.
And maybe
This might
they only had time to watch the first few episodes. We don't
Maybe.
know.
I mean, I know this is going to be a hot take. This is one that the people are going to be angry at me about. And I'll just go ahead and say, hey, all of my opinions are purely subjective. If you don't agree with me, that's okay. I'm glad that you're happy and enjoying the show. That means you're happy. And that's great. Don't we want people to be happy? I'm glad that you're happy and more happy with the show than I am. I just feel like it's gotten a little bit silly. And that's something that happens with multiple anime. And honestly, that's part of why I'm like, yeah, this is a silly hot take. You don't have to agree with me because I know how inherently ridiculous it is to be like, oh, that anime got a little bit ridiculous. But for this one in particular, I was like, just because like the tone of the show, I feel like made enough of a switch where I was like, it just kind of threw me off. Like, I really think that the first few episodes had this really cool, like, dark theme to it where it's like, honestly, the way I would describe it is like fucked up Yu-Gi-Oh! Where it's like this kid winds up having like a dark, evil spirit bond with him, and it gives him extraordinary powers, much like Yugi and the Pharaoh. And it's like this really cool, like, it sort of like reminded me of Bleach, where it starts off with just like this kind of more like gritty, like, oh, it's all about the hollows, and it's about these folks with swords just like going to friggin' town on them. But then just like with Bleach, where suddenly it was like, oh, not only are there these cool like Zanpakuto toe swords, but then there's also just this girl with 4 fairies, and then there's this dude with a giant bow, and then there's this dude with a weird arm. This show went from like, here are like a couple teens that have like demon ghost hunting powers to the panda. And I've told you about the panda, right?
I don't think you have.
So this, and again, this is a show about like high schoolers fighting demons and like ghosts, and it's pretty gritty and it's pretty cool. And then the last episode I saw was about a robot fighting a panda. And then during the episode, the panda says, "I'm not actually a panda. I'm actually a doll that looks like a panda with a panda and also a gorilla inside of me. And now it's time for me, Panda, to go gorilla mode." And I
Wait, you did tell me about.
Once the panda went gorilla mode and said, "I Panda am going gorilla mode," that's when I was like, all right, this is, I think this is the stop where I get off probably. I might come back later. I've seen some cool art from like the past few episodes. It seems like they've done stuff with the main character and the evil spirit inside of him, and like that's cool. But I simply don't need to watch the panda go gorilla mode again. I simply don't. Give me the show, independent show about the panda going gorilla mode, right? Give me your own fucking Animorphs ass, anime. Or like Ben 10, I guess, but instead of Ben, it's a panda. And instead of 10 aliens, it's just other animals. I'd watch the shit out of that. It just felt like an entirely different show. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Is that fair? I don't know.
But it was like a left field, like where you're just like, you're going down one track and then it's just like, whoa.
Exactly.
Oh, man. I feel like I just need to watch this episode just by itself. And just like not anything before, anything after. Because I think, when you told me that, I was just like, no, they did not do that.
Oh, yeah. Honestly, like watch the first, like probably again, like 4 or 5 episodes, and then go watch Panda going gorilla mode. And then tell me that I'm crazy for thinking that maybe this was a different show.
Have you ever seen the show called Ghost Stories?
Ghost Stories? I have not.
Okay, so this is an anime that did really poorly in Japan, and so they bundled it with a popular anime to kind of sell it for licensing. So Funimation ended up telling the voice actors, just say whatever the hell you want. And basically, they're going off and they're saying like the most ridiculous things.
Yeah.
And it makes the show better, but it's also ridiculous. And this is Panda going gorilla mode is kind of reminding me about some of the things that they say in the dub of Ghost Stories.
Oh yeah. Well, and to take us down an even weirder or relevant tangent, I guess. Have you ever heard of the video game / anime called Danganronpa?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. So I personally prefer Danganronpa 2 to the game, rather, to Danganronpa 1, the game / anime. And it's because I think the second Danganronpa game does a better job of balancing out the incredible fucked up darkness of like Murder School, but then also the like comical, ridiculous, like cartoonish elements of like, yeah, there's like the main villain is a little evil bear, and there's a little rabbit fairy that helps them all out, and one of the main characters is a robot. Like, I feel like that game did a much better job of finding that balance versus the first Danganronpa game, where I felt like that was another one that started off significantly darker and then would suddenly just jump into like, oh yeah, no, they just built like a Gundam suit at one point, and then one of the murders happened in a Gundam suit. Isn't that crazy? And it's just like, what? What are you? What's going on here?
And in the video game, is the blood pink as well, like it is in the anime?
Yeah, well, and I think that's part of, because like I know obviously in certain anime as well, you'll see like certain instances and scenes where like there's a blood splatter, but it's like really like dark, and like it's very clear that there was a shadow that was put on in post. I think it's just because of like certain guidelines as far as what you can show. I'm interested to see the studio that did Danganronpa has a new game that's going to be coming out on the Switch. I remember seeing that, and I guess it would have been the Nintendo Direct, which looks sort of same. It's interesting. It's like 3D animated from what I remember. I'll look it up later. I don't know.
All right. I do eventually. I will own a Switch because I was trying to get one last December, and then they were all sold out because people were trying to get the PS5, and when they couldn't get the PS5, they went and bought a Switch. So then it's just like, now all the Switches are gone.
Yeah.
And now they're available now, but my lazy butt hasn't gotten one yet.
Listen,
eventually.
Just buy yourself a Switch, buy yourself Stardew Valley, and you will just vanish for months. Just like I did.
Be like, where's Soul? Why is she not here for the show? Oh, sorry, I was playing.
Oh, I'll cover for you. I don't.
Perfect.
I'll come up with something.
We're going to go into the recent anime that I've been watching, and I've actually been watching it with John Roca's Patreon. We've been kind of doing an anime watch-along with all the people in the Patreon. John's not there, but the rest of us are there. And so we picked this anime because it's only 12 episodes, and so we said, let's start with one of the smaller ones, and it's called Death Parade.
Oh, interesting.
I want to start off with the opening song for this show is amazing. Which is funny because the song doesn't kind of go with the theme of the show, but it's still amazing. And you're just like, this is a party. And then you watch the show and you're like, this is not a party. So basically the theme of the show is that there's a bar, and the bar is purgatory. And so when you die, you go to this bar, and then you have to play a game, and the bar owner basically like puts judgment on you and basically tells you you're either going to hell or heaven, because that's an easier way for them to understand. It's really reincarnation, or what's the void is and it's by an elevator too, and you see faces. Like a red face is to the void, a white face is to reincarnation. And so like you get all of these people's stories, and they come into the bar and they don't remember that they're dead, and sometimes they don't have all their memories, and they slowly start to get their memories. So you see some of these people's stories, and like some of them like are like really sad, some of them are fucked up, some of them like are just like, oh, they had a really good life, but they ended up dying in a tragic way, in this way or the other. So you like, there's sad moments, but then there's also like funny moments as well too. It's kind of like a dark humor thing.
Yeah.
So, but it's super interesting, super existential, super philosophical. It's very much like how can they're called arbiters. How can an arbiter place judgment just based on your memories and a game? And like there's even in the first episode, he places judgment on something. In the second episode, it ends up that the judgment was wrong, kind of thing. And so like even the arbiters are imperfect and aren't always going to make the right choices on whether you get reincarnated or go to the void. So it's a super interesting show.
Nice. Yeah. What is that on?
I think it's on Hulu. I think we've been watching it in a way.
Of course, yes. You've been watching it on censored, demonetized.
Yes.
Of course, everyone's favorite.
Yes. But it's a super cool show. I definitely recommend it.
Nice. There you go. That sounds like a good. I'll look it up right now to see if it's on Hulu.
And it's short, so like that also helps.
Yeah. And I will also say, I just thought of this one as well. If you're looking for other short anime, watch the first season of Promised Neverland. The first season is very good. There is a second season.
It doesn't exist.
Watch the. Hey, Death Parade is on Hulu. How about that?
There you go.
That's what we meant by of course.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Crunchyroll.
Crunchyroll. We watched it on Crunchyroll. But speaking of other shows that are not anime like, what TV shows have you been watching, Jon?
Yeah, I mean, I've been on a big anime kick recently, and that's part of why I had so many opinions and hot takes to toss out, because that's been my main TV recently. That's right, that's what I do with them. But one of the shows that I checked out recently was I watched the first couple episodes of a show called Woke on Hulu, which is that show right there. Season 2, they just announced. I don't remember if they actually announced an air date, excuse me. Correct grammar, of course, for season 2. And I've only seen a couple episodes of season 1, but I've been really digging it so far. The kind of short pitch is that it focuses on the character played by Lamorne Morris, who folks might recognize from New Girl and Game Night. It's him as a cartoonist who's about to strike like a big deal with some of his IP, but then he gets stopped, harassed, and nearly killed by a police officer.
Oh, wow.
Because they mistake him for an entirely different black man. And from that, it sort of awakens something, which is part of why the show is called Woke, in the main character, where suddenly the world around him kind of becomes a lot more cartoonish. It's like this insane instance of racism suddenly makes him realize he lives in like a hybrid real-world Toontown, except all of the tunes are reflections of real-world racism. And it's tough. I mean, obviously it deals in like some very heavy subject matter, something that is also incredibly and tragically always relevant in some way or another in this very bad world of very bad police officers specifically. But especially in the first 2 episodes, that's another show where I think they've done a very good job in balancing out the comedy with some of the like real tough subjects that they tackle. I also really love, like, I'm a big sucker for just animation in general. And I feel like the way that like the show is inherently about animation, and then the stuff that they do along with that, like they actually have the main character like fight with his cartoons, because in sort of like getting it to that next stage of like selling the IP to make it something bigger, there's also the unfortunate discussions of racism that come along with that, and kind of like these expectations that are placed on him by his white bosses. It's very interesting. As you saw on the poster, Blake Anderson, I believe is his name, notably from like Workaholics, like plays his roommate. And if you've seen the movie Dope, Blake is basically playing the same character as he did in that movie, which works pretty well for this show as well. And then there's a lot of like great guest stars that pop up as well. Yeah, I'm really excited to check out the rest of the season. I just got to stop watching anime where pandas go gorilla mode for long enough to focus on something. I just can't get it out of my head, Soul. Just it's like the phrase "the panda went gorilla mode." That's like some shit you say to like somebody to trigger the fact that they're like a sleeper agent. You know what I mean? That's like I
That's
think
like those are Bucky's code words right there.
exactly. It's like it's that's what you say to him if you wanted to suddenly like just become a weeb. Like you say like what? Like race car, fire truck, chrysanthemum, and that's when he becomes like a killer soldier. But then suddenly you just look at him in the eyes and you just go, the panda goes gorilla mode. And that's where he suddenly pulls out his like wolf mask that he puts on where like the mouth moves and it's like all like hot pink and purple. And he suddenly starts just like singing along to the theme song for Danganronpa Volume 3 Despair version. Or was it Despair Arc? I don't remember.
One of those.
Despair Volume? They did a whole thing for season 3 where they did Future Arc and Despair Arc. So they had two different things. They're both great. We're off topic. The show Woke is good.
So I actually first heard about Woke on Blurs in the Hood with Winston A. Marshall. Got to get the A in there, and Jay Washington. One of their friends is actually on that show, and I feel super bad because I do not remember his name.
Oh no!
But he is on that show, and so like it's been on my list, and you know how like you're like, oh, I need to add this show to my list, and then the list gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It's like my TBR from my books. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm like, Where is all the time? There's no time in this world.
I have an app that I used to use in college when I was like super into trying to be like up to date on all TV shows because that was my personality for a minute. Gross. It's an app called TV Club where it's like you can add all of the shows that you're watching and it'll like let you know in advance like when the next episode airs, how many episodes you have left. Supposedly, I have 622 episodes of TV that I have to watch, and I simply
get to it.
It's gonna happen. No, I don't think so. Oh, I have to watch season 3 of Agretsuko. That one I might do. Yeah. Oh, I watched those episodes of Attack on Titan. It's a cool app, but then it gives you a big red number on your screen. I don't like that.
Does it make you feel like you're not accomplished enough if that's the number's way too big?
Oh, everything makes me feel like I'm not accomplished enough. So the app is really just like a pebble in the lake at that point. But hey, speaking of Winston A. Marshall, I also saw his episode of Superstore because that's a show I also watch from time to time. I don't keep up with on a weekly basis. But yeah, he was lovely in that. And that's also a very lovely show. That one, it took me a minute for like that show to grow on me. But I like it. They've been doing some really interesting stuff again, as far as like tackling certain issues out there that exist in the real world, as far as like unionization, deportation. They actually have been doing episodes about the pandemic, which I really wasn't sold on when I heard that, but I feel like they've been doing an okay job with it. And it's just been the final season now.
This how these shows are integrating the pandemic in, they all are doing it in different ways. Like if you watch Shameless, the way they integrated the pandemic in, 2 of the characters own a bar, and so like the bar is supposed to be closed, and so they sneak in all of their patrons, and like they to the government and to the city, the bar is closed, but to the actual patrons who are there every day before the pandemic, the bar's open. And so like they're all in there and they're like, oh wait, the feds are coming. Everyone go out the back door.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. The only show I want to see tackle the pandemic is It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And if I'm being honest, I probably only want them to do it for like 2 to 3 episodes and then just keep doing the other stuff that they do. Right. I need my TV as an escape, quite frankly. I don't need to. It's like, it's like when you always see like the same pieces of like art out in the world, like murals, where it's all about like, oh, maybe put down the social media because it's bad for you. It's like I've seen 35 of the same goddamn mural. This, wall art of like you making the Twitter bird look more like a real bird is not going to be the thing that gets me off of that website as much as I hate it. And especially
the funniest thing is people taking pictures in front of it and then putting it on their social media.
Well, yeah, and then there's also plenty where it's like if you look at like the corner of the wall, you see that the like painter did in fact tag their Instagram. And I'm like, all right, well then what the hell are you doing? Either you agree that sometimes it is, in fact, a useful tool to push forth your work, or you're just on your high horse about, oh, social media. Oh, don't you do it. Oh God, once you log into social media, you're just a robot. The world is Black Mirror. Oh, Bryce Dallas Howard.
And there's John, one of John's diatribes, which I told him he can have a few. So there you go.
I'm probably coming up to my total now. What, I'm at 3? Let me think. There's Panda Goes Gorilla Mode. There's Black Mirror mural art.
Yeah, so only two. You got a few more. We'll go into my recent TV watch, which basically this is going to be pretty like basic. I've been watching The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which I just think is amazing. And to not spoil it, I'm just going to do this.
Which I like hearing just the chair rock back and forth.
Yeah, if you know, you know.
I saw the gif of Baron Zemo dancing in the club. He seemed like he was having a good time.
He's living his best life. He literally is living his best life, and I'm here for it. Like, he's the highlight of the episode, the most recent one. They go to Madripoor, and you pretty much just, without spoiling, it's just between Bucky and Sam and Baron Zemo, the three of them together. I just want them to be a team and continue being a team, even though Zemo is not a good person.
Yeah.
But he's hilarious, and I'm here for it.
All right, fair enough.
And then the other one that I've been watching is The Mighty Ducks Game Changers, which this one I was like a little fearful to go into because I was just like, is this going to be like Cobra Kai, which I think is amazing, or is this going to be like other continuations of old nostalgia shows that like end up being shitty? So like it was like it could go either way. Right now, I think it's leaning more towards Cobra Kai.
Okay.
I've enjoyed it so much. I really like Lauren Graham in it. She's super funny. I like too that some of the tropes like are there, but they haven't gone to the place that I know that they're going to yet. Like they're giving it some time to breathe. Where I was like, it would have been really easy for them to do. Again, trying not to spoil. It would have been really easy for them to go straight into it from the very beginning of the first episode, and they haven't yet. I've only seen the first 2 episodes, and they haven't yet. I assume that in the third they're going to, but they're giving room to breathe. And they're also making comments on youth sports, which we all know those moms who go super crazy over like their kids in sports, or those dads who go super crazy like, I'm going to vicariously live through my child and they're going to be a super sports star. It's like, your kid is 12.
I think my favorite thing about those sports is I remember doing like soccer camp and like intramural soccer for years and having those adults, you know, the boomer or Gen X generation, making actively and giving out participation trophies. And then not maybe 5 years later, that same generation is immediately always screaming on Facebook that our generation is bad because we asked for participation trophies, even though we didn't, and they're the ones that made them for us.
Yeah.
I'm assuming they're probably gonna say something about participation trophies in the Mighty Duck show. Like I'm glad to hear that it hasn't happened yet. I hope they don't. I hope they're better than that. But something in me is just like, I bet that's going to be a whole friggin' arc you're going to have to watch in that show.
Well,
and I'm sorry.
I will say it wasn't participation trophies. There was an award ceremony that happened in the second episode before they ever played a game.
Okay. So, you know, that's what happens sometimes.
Yeah. Their team is called the Don't Bothers. So, I mean...
That kind of slaps.
Yeah. and it's kind of like it goes off the Mighty Ducks. They basically have become the Hawks now. And Emilio Estevez is back to his I don't like hockey and I don't like children, which he was in the first Mighty Ducks movie. So something happened. We don't know what happened yet, but something happened.
So they're really just kind of redoing the movie, except now the whole team that they built up for 3 movies to be the good guys are now just the shitheads.
Yep.
And now they're just like, well, I guess we're just going to do the same thing again. But this time we just have to reverse the IP. Oh, the IP. Oh, the precious IP soul.
The writer of the 3 movies is the writer on the show, so they kept that person there.
So they could have just shown the movies again, is what I'm hearing.
Pretty much. But I'm enjoying it so far.
That's good. I'm
Yes.
glad you're enjoying it. That's what's important.
That is what's important. Only if I enjoy. No one else. Only me.
That's exactly right. Soul, the arbiter of television.
Exactly. But now that we've talked some TV, let's go into the movie realm. What have you recently watched movie-wise?
Well, I am very fortunate in that I am fully vaccinated, and I have a group of friends even that live in the same apartment building, so they have all been in the same bubble. So I've been able to be free to hang out with them a little bit, and I'm here in the lovely state of California. So me and my friends, we got together, we indulged in a few different things, and then sat down and watched Godzilla vs. Kong. Or is it Kong vs. Godzilla? That
Godzilla vs. Kong.
Me. Okay, there we go. All right, left to right, got it. Now I talked a little bit earlier with Jujutsu Kaisen about how I didn't appreciate the tonal whiplash of going from something more serious to then going into the panda going gorilla mode. This movie is 100% panda going gorilla mode. This movie is the best kind of stupid, and it makes me very happy. I wholeheartedly recommend this film. It is very fun.
I still haven't seen it yet. Everyone's telling me that it's like the turn off your brain, stupid fun that you just want in your life. And I'm like, I'm here for it. Because I've only seen the first of the new Godzilla movies. I haven't seen the second one, and I haven't seen Kong Skull Island, which I've been told that I need to see Kong Skull Island.
It's interesting. The only thing I had seen going into this was Kong Skull Island, and basically none of the human characters from that movie are in that one, so you don't really need to have watched it. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, again, I kind of agree with, the whole turning off your brain thing. The monsters punch each other a bunch. It's very much what you expect. They make it look very cool, which I thought was great. That's kind of the main thing you gotta nail. I thought they did that part well. There are many scenes where the humans show up, and they are saying the most ridiculous, stupid things that you've ever heard. And, of course, it only barely makes sense, and you don't really ever care about any of the humans throughout the entire course of the movie. But at the same time, it's, again, like I was saying, it's the perfect kind of like dumb, schlocky action movie where you really can't be mad at the humans. Like, you can't be like, oh, I'm so mad that I'm not getting a deeper insight into who they are. You just hear them talk about Hollow Earth and drilling in to get a sample of Hollow Earth, and you just start laughing. You can't.
Not dense Earth. You need Hollow Earth.
Oh, you need the Hollow Earth, which is arguably a bit more dense, depending on what your thoughts are. Inverted gravity, or whatever the hell they were talking about in that flick. I don't care. I sat through Millie Bobby Brown indulging conspiracy theories, and then I just get to watch a giant lizard and a giant gorilla punch each other.
Because we are both weebs, is it like watching Gohan versus Cell, Gohan like Super Saiyan 2 versus Cell, or watching like a Frieza versus Goku, like in that way of like the giant DBZ fights that last for episodes on episodes, even though it's only 5 minutes, but it goes through several episodes?
Soul, I'm going to be completely real with you. My only exposure and understanding of Dragon Ball Z comes from the Dragon Ball Z abridged series on YouTube and the few games of that really fun Dragon Ball Z fighting game there was. So if I had to say, I'd say probably the latter of the two things you said, only because Goku versus Frieza is the one of those two scenarios you presented me with that I've seen. So, and it is sort of like, they only fight like 2 times in the movie because they have to have their whole like build up of human characters going like, oh, here's why they're fighting, and here's why they're also maybe gonna be friends at the end of the movie, but also maybe are gonna fight each other again for a sequel because of Hollow Earth. And it's just silly. It's one of those things where it's like, yes, there's a lot of buildup, but it's not it doesn't make you angry. Does that help?
Yeah. I was going to be like, I'm sad that you haven't seen DBZ, but I'm happy that you've seen the abridged series because that is also amazing and that makes my heart happy. So you made me sad and then happy right at the same time. So congrats to you.
That's
Joe.
what I'm all about, baby.
So I still haven't seen this movie. I will. People, I will. But the movie I've seen the first 2 Harry Potters, which I've seen them before, but I'm rewatching them now. So it started with Sorcerer's Stone, even though that there says Philosopher's Stone. That's the UK version. And then I watched Chamber of Secrets right after that. Because I'm doing what I don't do. I'm going to do a match, a Harry Potter match for like a Schmodown related one, not in the actual Schmodown because I'm not good enough for that. But I'm typically the person that says, I don't answer questions. I write them. I don't have the knowledge. I don't have that. But I got coerced into doing a Harry Potter match because I do have knowledge on Harry Potter. So I hope that I will do better than Colin. I don't need to win, but I need to do better than Colin.
Yeah, that's
my only goal.
If there's one moral of this show, it's shut up, Colin. Our dear friend Colin, who we like very much, but the moral of this episode is shut up.
Which is funny. Our fellow competitor, Aisha, she said the same exact thing. She's like, I don't need to win. I just need to beat Colin.
That's fair. That's fair.
So I knew too much about Harry Potter already, but now I know even more about Harry Potter than I thought I ever would. Like, I know the exact address of where Harry Potter lives when he's with his aunt and uncle. I know that now.
You don't gotta know that. You don't have to do that to yourself. So you just gotta know he's under a cupboard. You just gotta know that. Or he's in a cupboard and it's under some stairs. That's all you really gotta know. The world will keep on spinning if you don't remember the exact friggin' 4 numbers on Privy Drive. Is that what it was? That was what it was.
Privet. Drive.
Oh, excuse me. I was saying my American pronunciation. Philosopher's Stone. Ugh, whatever.
Get it right, John.
Leviosa, not Leviosa. Duh.
Which, like, when she read that line, I was like, she said the same thing. Like, that's the same thing. I don't hear a difference.
Once again, I just hope Emma Watson is happy. I don't care if she's taking a break from acting, as long as she's doing just fine. Being a child actor is not a fate I wish on many people. So I'm really hoping that she's doing whatever she needs to do to stay healthy and to stay happy. and stay far away from those Fantastic Beasts movies, because that's not going to make anyone happy.
100%. And seeing like later stuff with both Emma Watson and with Daniel Radcliffe and how amazing actors they are now, it's funny to watch them as the first 2 movies, like as kids, and you're like, man, they're kid actors. That's why they had all the adults there be amazing British actors, because they're like, we know what we're working with. We're working with children.
Yeah, that's also probably because at first they're probably paying those kids pennies.
Yeah.
And they're just like, yeah, we can absolutely just throw down the money to get Emma Roberts to just play Trelawney in like 2 scenes every movie, because poor Emma Watson is getting paid a fraction of that because she's just some 12-year-old. Thankfully, I'm sure they were probably getting paid bucks by the time that the franchise
by the time
ended,
of the end.
Especially because they split that last one into 2 whole movies.
Right. And they're like, we're adults now.
Yeah.
Give us that money. But right. It was funny too, because there's like a legit moment where like Ron and Harry are like, what? Like, and that's what they do. They're like that, and I'm just like, I didn't notice this beforehand. I do now.
My main memory of Chamber of Secrets is there is an entire scene where Professor McGonagall is teaching the kids how to turn rats into cups.
Yeah, water goblets, yes.
Why is she doing that? Why is that part of it? You're telling me the school doesn't have any time for math, but they can sit down and say, all right, kids, today we're spending the whole day so that if you ever find a rat, you can drink out of it? No. Maybe it's because we've gone through a whole year of COVID, but like that's how you get so sick. That is how you get incredibly sick, is you find rats that have been living in a billion-year-old castle and then say, I want to drink out of you, sir. That's no good.
It was like, do wizards not know about the plague?
I mean, you saw the like thing from J.K. Rowling where like she was like, yeah, before there were modern bathrooms, wizards used to just poop their pants and then use their wands to magic it away. What an idiot. I'm sorry to everyone who loves Harry Potter. I'm glad you love Harry Potter, but J.K. Rowling is a goddamn moron. On top of being a terrible human being, she's also just dumb.
Yeah. The fact too is just like stop adding stuff. What you made was great. Stop adding stuff to the only horse that you like have right now, because you can't do anything else. She's done pen names to write other books and they're all shit. Like, just leave well enough alone.
I will recommend, if y'all are already on YouTube, if you haven't checked out the YouTube channel Cosmonaut Variety Hour, Cosmonaut Marcus, his name is Marcus. I always just call him Cosmonaut Marcus because he's kind of like the main person on that channel. Did a video about specifically Fantastic Beasts and the Crimes of Grindelwald, but he talks a lot about that exact same thing in that video, and it's very funny, and I recommend you check it out.
I'm going to go check that out right after this. So thank you, John. Thank you, John. So we also like to go into anything extra because we like to talk about what our heart desires and all the things of just random ass things that we like to talk about. So John, what's your random ass thing that you want to talk about?
Yeah, well, my random ass thing is tabletop role-playing games. It is something that I've started doing a little bit more of since moving out here to California, probably for the past 3 years or so. Like many people, I did a little bit of Pathfinder and D&D when in like high school and college, and just like a big nerd until I started trying to act cool by watching too many TV shows. I really thought I was cool for a minute. It was very bad. But since like moving out here and kind of embracing a little bit more of my geekier side, I've been just kind of like playing a lot more role-playing games, and then also watching a bunch of shows and streams of other games. So the one that I kind of sent over to you, Sol, is the one that I've been watching most recently, which is probably one that the most people have heard of, and that is Critical Role. I've just started that, and it's pretty good. I feel like in case anyone hasn't necessarily heard of it, it's a bunch of like well-established voice actors who do a lot of work in like animation. For example, we were talking about Attack on Titan. The DM, Matt Mercer, is, I believe, the voice actor for Levi in the dub of Attack on Titan, so you might recognize his voice, along with a bunch of other people. And it's them just bringing their home game of Dungeons and Dragons that they're playing with each other, and then just turning it into content. Because that's really what the moral of the past 4 years, unfortunately, is if you like anything and enjoy doing it in your free time, you'd better be monetizing that. But yeah, that is the cast of Critical Role right there, and their Campaign 2 characters. I haven't started watching this one, but I know that's the characters from their second campaign. Their first campaign, they were doing it back when Geek and Sundry was a bigger thing, because it does still exist, and there's still some good stuff that they're doing there. But back in the day, this was a Geek and Sundry Twitch show, and I think they did it from like 2015 through probably 20. I don't know when it ends. It's a lot. It's a lot of If you're thinking about watching Critical Role, it's going to be a lot. They did it for many years, and every episode is approximately 3 hours. So that's part of why it's like, yeah, I started watching it like probably a week and a half ago. And it's like, I watched the first 2 episodes, and then I looked online, and they're like, yeah, you could probably skip to chapter 3 of campaign 1. And I was like, all right, I'm going to do that. And now I'm probably maybe like 6 episodes into that.
Nice.
Yeah. It's a lot of stuff. But it's also good. Like, it's, it's one of those weird things where it's dramatic improv, and that's essentially what it is. It's just these very good actors doing, some very goofy things as well. Like, it's D&D, like, they're playing like half elves and gnomes and shooting magical lasers out of their penis. It's an inherently silly thing, But then they also have like huge, dark, emotional moments as well. Like if you look up Critical Role, like one of the first things that I saw was like, oh, here are all of the like main character deaths that happen in campaign 1. I was like, oh my god, like there's a lot of crying, but there's also a lot of fun stuff, and it's very unique in that way because of how spontaneous it is, and that's part of why I've been fallen in love with Critical Role and similar shows, and been watching a lot of that over the past few years.
And then I know Travis Willingham and Laura Bailey, who are a married couple, they're in Critical Role. So I have not seen a single episode, but I do love some of the people that are in it because I'm an anime fan.
Yeah.
And when I first started watching anime, that I knew that it was anime, because I watched DBZ and Yu-Gi-Oh! And I thought, oh, those are just cartoons when I was little. And then it's just like, now I know better. But when I was actually watching anime for the first time and knowing it was anime, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood was the first one that I watched. And, Roy Mustang, that's Travis Willingham. Laura Bailey plays Lust in that. Then I also watched Soul Eater, which she's the main character in Soul Eater as well, and the English dub. So both of their careers, I've listened to their voice a lot in my anime.
I completely forgot they were in Brotherhood. I should have known that. That's one of my favorite. That's probably my favorite anime. Oh man,
mine too.
I also just remembered, Laura Bailey and Ashley Johnson both on the show, and were both just the stars of The Last of Us 2, a game that was universally beloved, a game that everyone had good, nice things and were polite about their opinions. Doing things like I do, where I say, hey, this is just my subjective opinion. If it's not yours, that's okay. I'm glad you're happy about a piece of art that is ultimately harmless. I'm glad everyone behaved that exact same way when talking about the video game.
100%. 100%. That's what happened. I remember it exactly that way.
It's okay. Thankfully, there's absolutely no interpersonal drama in the first few episodes of Critical Role. That's a joke only for people who watch Critical Role and will not be happy about it. I'm not happy I said it, but it's on the internet.
Isn't that most of the shows that you're on, John? You're not happy you said it?
It's a lot of me just being like, why do people want me to do this? And then I hope I say something funny by the time the show ends. And I don't know if we're there yet. How did we feel about my Harry Potter Rat Cup joke? Do we feel like that was good?
Yeah, that was solid. That was solid.
Great. I'm gonna keep appearing on shows because that one joke worked. Now I know that it is very legitimate for me to be allowed to talk for hours on end. We're good.
I will say though, I love dumb jokes. Like dad jokes or dumb jokes, I'm here for it. So that's why I think you are very funny, and I enjoy all of the time that I've spent with you because I find you very funny.
That's right. I might not be smart.
I think you are smart.
What's up?
Well, anyways, we'll go into my recent anything. So that is, I love Ali Wong as a comedian. And it was one of those days that I was having a bad day. And I was like, I'm just going to go watch her stand-up specials. And I watched Baby Cobra. That's her first one. And then her second one with Netflix is Hard Knock Wife. So she's pregnant in both stand-ups. The first one with her first child, the second one with her second child. And just the fact, too, that, the through line between the first comedy special and the second comedy special, where the first one she's just like, I don't want to work anymore, I want to be a housewife, I want to be and then in the second one she's like, I wanted to be a housewife, that's a whack ass job that you don't get paid for. Or the fact too that she's like, I love my baby girl so much, but I need to be away from her so I don't go to jail.
That's fair. That's fair. That sounds right. That sounds right for parenting.
Yeah. And it was she talked to one of her jokes was about how her child shit on her chest. She was doing skin to skin contact and she's just like, shit on my chest. And I was like, so she's being very real, where you see with male comedians that like they have a kid and then they like do their dad jokes and they're like the relatable funny man dad, where you really don't see it, although like there's been a few comedians now that have done stand up pregnant or like who have had kids, but for the most part women comedians don't have children. And so like there's now a perspective from the women's side about having kids and like going through all that, and she is very crass and she's very much like gonna speak her own mind and tell you what it is. And I just find her hilarious, and it made a bad day a good day with her. So I love Ali Wong.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was talking to like a comedian friend of mine, and she was also saying something kind of similar to what you were saying, sort of, where she was like, yeah, I feel like a lot of male comedians, they kind of just wind up relying on like impersonal stuff because it's kind of like people are more okay, I guess, with them just kind of going off on completely unrelated, like just one-off kind of like quip jokes, essentially. Where it's always like, oh, about the news, like it's sort of like the kind of like late night formula, things that are more just observational, making fun of stuff. Whereas a lot of female comedians are more kind of like open and personal, making jokes about their own lives and stuff. And it is something that is polarizing. Obviously, everyone knows the dumb troll comments that always come out with women comedians where it's like, oh, all they could do is talk about sex. And it's like, well, no, they're just like making jokes about like their lives because women have sex. I'm sorry you haven't gotten to experience that, bud. But sometimes there are, in fact, women out there who enjoy having sex because they're able to have sex with men that aren't you. Right?
Right.
Exactly. It's just like, look, don't be mad at Amy Schumer because she's a female who's successful in comedy. Be mad at Amy Schumer because she's a female who's successful in comedy, largely because she has stolen a lot of her material wholesale. That is something.
And also she's in those Tampax commercials where like, I was like, you're getting way too excited about your period. Like, that's not an exciting time.
That's what wealth will do to you, is that, that'll corrupt your brain to the point like, hello there, fellow humans. Don't we love our periods? It's like, oh my, you got too much money where you forgot how to act.
Facts. And so it's pretty much just, I would recommend seeing her. I would also recommend Ronnie Chang. He's another Asian comedian on Netflix, and his stuff is very funny as well.
I gotta check. I think he was just in I think he just had like the funniest like cameo in a show on Netflix called Auntie Donna's Big Ol' House of Fun, which is also very fun. About? It's just like a sketch comedy show. It's these three Australian dudes who just do like 6 episodes of like dumb sketch comedy. It's very out there. It's very fun. But I think this comedian makes a cameo in it where it's like just like at the very end of the episode where it's just like, this episode was sponsored by Auntie Donna and the boys. And then like some other, like Auntie Donna, no, Merry Christmas from Netflix and Auntie Donna and Ronnie Chang. And it's just like, he was completely not in the episode at all. They just got him for that like 5-second tail end thing where it's just hilarious. Like, happy Christmas from them and me.
Well, it makes sense. His wife is Australian, so like that would make sense that he would do some Australian stuff.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, he talks about like in his stand-up shit, he talks about like that he had to have 3 different weddings, one in the United States for green card purposes, one in Malaysia because that's where his family's from. Although it's not in the city that they're from, they went to the city that was closest to the airport because that's how it works. And then one in Australia because that's where she's from. And like he has this full bit about how he was late to his own wedding because he had to fly from New York to Australia, and he flew to LA and then the LA flight was delayed. And so he was late for the morning in Australia because he had to work up until that point to pay for 3 weddings.
Oh my God. I was just checking the IMDb also for Auntie Donna. Not only is he in it, but I also forgot that Ed Helms and Anthony Starr and Jack Quaid from Amazon's The Boys all make appearances. I was just like, look at their list. I was just like, oh my, they did so much dumb stuff on this show, but it's
John,
so fun.
You're adding more stuff to my list.
I know. Well, again, hey, this one's only 6 episodes. That's like a night with Roka's Patreon when Roka's not there. That's
Right.
exactly.
100%. Well, anyways, this has been such a fun episode, John. I've enjoyed it a lot. Where can the people find you? What are you up to?
The people can find me at Jon Barr Tweets on Twitter and Instagram. I just got a fun email that someone tried logging into my Instagram. Nice try. No.
From which country?
It didn't tell me that. It just said, hey, bud, looks like you're having some problems logging in. So we'll send you the email to get in. I was like, haha, gonna change that password.
Someone tried to log into mine from Russia. So that's nice.
Russia? What are you doing? I think they're just trying to get on the show, and that's just like the only way they can be. It's just some Russian dude. Hello, I am Dmitry. I have thoughts on Bachelor in Paradise. That's not Russian. You can also find me at Jon Barr on Twitch. I haven't streamed in a minute, but I got a little couple clips up there. I'm trying to rebalance my life as far as work and pleasure, so hopefully I'll be doing some more stuff on that. Likewise, if you look up Jon Barr on YouTube, I'm probably the second or third channel that'll pop up under that name. I'm working on a couple of videos right now, but I already have like a Harry Potter related video that's on there where I find out what house I am. I have a couple episodes of a Pokemon Nuzlocke run that's very fun if you've never heard of it. It's a way of making Pokemon more difficult, and it's fun. And yeah, I'm always getting up to shenanigans on the Ultimate Schmodown after show with Soul here, along with Colin and Boggs. And Sean and Mike as well, though they only pop up every so often.
Hey, you can find me at Soul Govin up there on Twitter, and you can find me over at the Ultimate Showdown After Show, along with John and Colin and Sean and Mike and all of them that he just said. Run it down.
Shut up, Colin.
Shut up, Colin. And every Wednesday here on the Media Studies Network for Soul Talk. So we'll see you next time, and thank you for watching.